Welcome back to another episode of STEM in Stilettos. This is your host, Zofia Morales, and today I have a guest with me, Holly Ostrout. And we are going to explore the world of creating a book as a business owner. And what does that mean for you? Is that something you can find the time even to do? A lot of us are intimidated by the entire process and have no clue how we would fit it into our world. So today we are going to discuss write the damn book already. The
Exactly.
world is waiting because books are basically virtual mentorship. And part of what we're looking to do in this community and in this forum is to reach out to the women who are coming behind us. And a book is one amazing way to do that. And it's extremely time leveraged. So let me introduce our guest today. Holly Ostrout is a book and publishing coach for women entrepreneurs who want to write one really damn good book for their business, the kind that gets underlined, dog-eared, and lands paid speaking gigs, as well as making their business simpler, smarter, and more visible. She works with business owners to turn their ideas into books that actually do what they're meant to do, make people want to work with you by blending the narrative psychology. Whoops. By blending narrative psychology, publishing strategy, and her own proven frameworks, such as crowd favorite Heroine's journey method, Holly helps her clients create books that are both wildly engaging and strategically designed to move readers into meaningful next steps. For any of you who've been circling this same book idea for months or even years, Holly offers a way to get it done without ghostwriting and gimmicks. My tongue has not woken up this morning. Thank goodness we're pre-recording.
Yeah.
All right. So welcome to the show, Holly. I'm so happy to have you here with me.
Thank you so much, Sophie. I'm really excited.
A lot of times I introduce people and, oh, she's a writer and a publisher and she gets all of this stuff done. And we tend to put you up on this great big pedestal. Would you like to knock yourself off your pedestal and tell us
Yeah.
how you arrived into this amazing space that you're in right now? What's
Oh
your
my gosh.
backstory?
Yes, please don't put me on a pedestal. There's too much pressure there. Well, actually, it's been a little bit of a circuitous journey for me. I started writing books back in I finished my first book in 2013. It was a novel. And I was in grad school at the time, and I was in grad school for publishing because I wanted to go and work at one of the big publishing houses in New York City.
Yeah, Random House or Penguin or somebody, right?
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's where I wanted to be. So I pictured my dream life, kind of like Carrie Bradshaw, like being an acquisitions editor, getting all these authors to their dreams and just this magical New York City lifestyle where I'm helping people achieve their dreams of like being a big time author.
Yeah.
And, as I was in grad school for it, I realized
Yeah, the
because I was
reality doesn't match Hollywood.
it doesn't match. Not only does it not match Hollywood for you, the acquisitions editor or the potential acquisitions editor, but it also doesn't match Hollywood for the author. And I was so disheartened by the way it works, the way I saw authors being treated almost as if they are a complete meaningless aspect of the process.
Mm.
And I didn't like it. So I did
Yeah.
not end up going into publishing. I ended up going into project management in education technology instead. So I went into ed tech. I was still working in literature and books and everything. And I eventually actually took over and ran Cliff's Notes. Yeah,
Nice.
so I did get there kind of
They're
in
very helpful.
yeah, they still are too, but they were actually out of print for a while. So I brought them back into print and I built that up. And so I got to see multiple sides of it because I really didn't like how it was being done. And then I had to be part of the people doing it that way because
Yeah.
somehow I got into that role anyway. And
Can I
oh
ask you
yeah,
something before we go down this road?
of course.
Let's bust the myth about what it looks like to be discovered as an author and to become broadly known and all that kind of stuff. Because you mentioned the Hollywood side of it. And I think most of us are on the idea of, I could become the next, Nora Roberts or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, you could. but you have a better chance of winning the Powerball, I think. So
Which, by the way, you should
for
probably go
international,
get one. When we're recording
oh,
today,
that's
it's
right.
like in the billions. So,
Yeah, yeah. So go get a Powerball today, and then you won't need a traditional publishing deal. And that's not, I don't want to like say that traditional publishing deals are bad, but yeah, to be a Nora Roberts, to get that kind of exposure, to get that kind of like livable income off of a book, it's not there anymore. And there's a lot of misconceptions about what comes with a publishing deal. For example, the money, and there's not much of it anymore. And most of what the authors do get, and this is especially true for nonfiction, is has to be used on the marketing because they're not doing the marketing for you anymore. So basically, what I really didn't like about it is that you're giving away this
your
huge piece of,
baby,
well, I
chunk
mean,
of your soul. Yes.
right. Yeah, people call it their babies all the time. And it's a huge creative endeavor, even though it shouldn't take you 2 years to write it. So when I say huge creative endeavor, I don't mean it's your whole life that you've spent writing it. I mean that you've put a lot of yourself into it. And I think that the authors deserve to have a voice, deserve to have equitable remuneration for it, and deserve to be able to use that book in a way that's meaningful for them, not just the person who publishes it for them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, good. Now we can go back down the road you were going down.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that, as I was going through grad school and as I was working in education technology and so on, I wrote books too. And I started out writing fiction and I decided, let me try self-publishing them. And then back then, self-publishing it had stigma and, but it was
And
also kind of,
it was a lot harder to do back in the day too.
it was a lot harder to
Yeah.
do. But it was also this kind of Wild West kind of gold rush time where if you hopped in right there, especially with fiction, you could potentially make a lot of money from it. And so I did. And so since then, I've been on both sides of the publishing world, both as an author, as a coach, as a publisher, traditional and indie publishing. And so I've seen a lot of what's working, what's not working, and what most importantly to me is supporting the authors
Yes.
because that's who really matters. Because if there's nobody to write the book, then there is no book. So they need to be treated with respect.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and I have kind of sniffed around the edges of the idea of doing a book. And even business owners who are like, I want to write a piece that's going to support my business. I think there are a number of minefields out there that they're unaware of when they go, well, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go write my book. I'm going to self-publish it. I don't need anybody to do this. What are some of the traps that you see entrepreneurs drop into when they go at it that way?
Yeah, I see a lot of people do that. And I have a lot of business connections on my social media, for example. So I'll see a lot of people talking about their book launch and their upcoming book. And you can tell who did it themselves.
Mm,
And that doesn't mean that every aspect of the book needs to be outsourced to a professional, but there are key aspects that should be. And mistakes that I see happening because of this are that their book does not sell. They end up a month later giving it away or trying to give it away as like a free lead magnet just to get people on their list. Then nobody reads it, even if they download it, and they end up nothing comes from it. But a book is the kind of asset for your business that should be working for you for the next 5 to 10 years.
yeah.
And if it's not, then you need to reevaluate that.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like putting together a bad sales page. I mean, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort, and you have a lot of hope tied up in it.
Yeah.
And you put it out there, and then it's crickets. No one, people don't spend any time on it. They land on it, they go, oh no, I'm out. And
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be very frustrating and disappointing.
Right. And
So, yeah,
similar, oh, yeah,
yeah, go
similar
ahead.
to a bad sales page is that it's you're getting people landing on it and then they're just thinking, this is not for me. But so you have to know how to make a book look like it's for them and to be for them, and you have to engage them. But one place that a lot of people go wrong is that they treat a book like a social media post and they think, oh, I need a clickbait title, I need a clickbait hook. And the engagement period is different with a book than it is with social media or email or YouTube videos or podcasts or anything. It's different
Yeah.
because people anticipate giving time to a book. And when you try to grab them with something that is not aligned to the book, like that, like a sales page headline, it's like 3,000 red flags all go up at once.
This is going to be a 250-page sales letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what people will think. And nobody wants to pay to be sold to. But that doesn't mean that you're not selling in your book. It just needs to be done the right way.
Yeah, exactly. And work with somebody who knows what that way looks like.
Yeah.
So, how did you decide to focus on helping entrepreneurs write books rather than other kinds of offers? You mentioned you'd done well in fiction yourself, so why not?
Yeah, because, well, there's multiple reasons. I used to work with fiction authors too, and I occasionally still do if there's like, a book that's really speaking to me. I want to work with them on it. But for the most part, I like to keep some separation between like what I'm writing. I don't want to get my ideas from somebody else accidentally or,
Yeah.
impose my own preferences for literature on another author. So I keep those separate on purpose. But also from a business perspective, I have an undergraduate in business and entrepreneurship and marketing, and I really just love this kind of personality that happens when you have a go-getter, I guess, because you
Yeah.
have to be a go-getter to be an entrepreneur or even to work in STEM, for example. It is something
Yeah,
that,
you've got to
yeah,
be a self-starter. You've got to have
exactly.
persistence. You've got to take the good with the bad and the setbacks and turn them into springboards and yeah, all the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. And I think that people that have that kind of personality work really well for writing a book, not because writing a book is hard or it's like starting a business, which a lot of people get scared and think that it might feel really hard, but because it is something where you need to put yourself into it.
Yeah. It can feel vulnerable, I think.
Vulnerable,
Yeah.
exactly. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. So I've seen this statistic from different places on the number of entrepreneurs who write books and what it does for their business growth. And it kind of depends on who you talk to and whose system you've been through. But I think your statistics are probably better than average, that 96% actually see some sort of significant business growth that comes
Mhm.
out of it.
Yeah.
What are the characteristics of a book that does that for the author? What makes
Well,
those different from the ones that go out there and flop?
yeah. Okay. So there's a very broad category of books that do well. And I work predominantly with commercial nonfiction. So that's going to be business books, leadership books, finance, wellness, relationships, wellness, things like that. Think about just nonfiction books that the typical person would pick up and read, not necessarily memoir or things like
Yeah,
that.
kind of a self-helpy sort of thing.
Yeah, self-help,
Yeah.
personal development, that's definitely included. So there's definitely a broad category of books like that. And you could say that each type of book, each genre of book is going to have different things about it that make it stand out or be successful. But you could also boil down to each nonfiction book that's doing really well, it needs a few key things. And one of the problems is that most traditional books, they'll give you a lot of information, but they don't give you the transformation.
Yes.
And the readers cannot implement anything they learn. So maybe the author has given them a lot of really great information, like step by step, everything of how they became a millionaire or whatever they're teaching. But the reader gets to the end of the book and thinks, this was really, I feel like I learned a lot, but I don't actually know what to do.
Yeah, what would be my next step to
Right,
really go down this road? Yeah.
right. And so the answer is not necessarily to say, here's your next step. The answer is that they need to guide the reader on a journey to becoming the person who has created this kind of change. And that's
Mm.
because they don't want to be rescued. Your readers don't want to be rescued with you just telling them step by step what to do. They want to become the hero or the heroine who can rescue themselves. And that's the difference. So this transformational journey needs to be part of the narrative of the nonfiction book in order for the reader to actually learn and take in what you've taught them. You can teach them step by step how to do everything, but they need to learn through a transformation, an internal transformation, or they won't pick it up.
Interesting. And I think that's probably where the art lies.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're up on our first break already. And what I'm going to suggest, dear listener, thank you, first of all, for investing your time here today. Grab your pen, grab your piece of paper, and just jot down a few ideas that might have been rattling around in your head on what your book topic might be, the transformation you might want to share with the world so that other people can also have that transformation. And hang with us. We'll be right back from the break.
Oh, checked it loud, but we're here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I am back with the amazing, wonderful Holly Ostrout. And before the break, I asked you to grab your pen, grab your piece of paper, jot down some ideas that have maybe been rattling around in your mind about what your book or your book topic might be. So now that we've got this list, Holly, how do we start to evaluate what are the goers? How do we look at these ideas? And how do we think about things like the big promise of transformation that the book is going to bring? And how does that look different from like the clickbaity title?
Okay, I love that you use these words, the promise and the clickbaity title, because here's where most people get it wrong. Let's say you're a life coach and you've been doing life coaching for 10 years and you have a process that works and you know exactly what you want to teach everybody. You've thought, here's step 1, step 2, step 3, here's my chapters. But then when you write them out, there's no cohesion there. There's too much breadth to it. So what I have my clients do is we always start with a promise, and the promise ends up being, in most cases, your subtitle or a version of your subtitle, because you're bringing them right in. So you have to think about, what is the one small thing that you are promising that your reader will gain from reading your book all the way through, from buying your book. And as an aside, buying the book, getting somebody to buy the book, that's not the hard part. It's getting them to read it. That's the hard part. So that promise has to be very effective, and we spend a good bit of time on perfecting that promise. And you can also think of it as your topic angle, because as I said, if you are a life coach, or let's say something,
there's a million leadership books out there,
a million. And a lot of people do the same job, but they have a different way of doing it. So you can say, I'm writing a book about data science and all the new things we've discovered or I've discovered in data science, but what makes that different from any other data science book? Or what is the promise that you are saying that somebody's going to come away with that is more specific, more to the point, and more valuable to a smaller group of readers? Because just like with anything, if you're trying to sell it to everybody, you're selling to nobody, and a book is the same.
Yeah, exactly. And just like anything, you start with a very specific audience, and sometimes it'll find traction with additional larger groups. But if you hadn't spoken to that specific audience, you'd have never gotten the rest of that traction. It's kind of like Diary of a CEO. It started very, very niche and very specific, and then it grew broad as it gained traction. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And the same with like Mel Robbins and anybody else, like these big nonfiction authors or Brene Brown, things like that. They all started very niche and then expanded from there. And as an author on your first book, you need to do the same thing.
I like that. So what are some of the structures we should think about? You mentioned that memoir is kind of a different thing than what you're talking about here. And I know a lot of us who've done a lot in our lives tend to think, oh, memoir, I'll give all of my lessons away. Why is that a mistake?
Oh, well, for one, there's two things here. So for one, memoir is more, you would follow a fiction structure for memoir, not a nonfiction structure, even though it's true, but it is story form. Now, with nonfiction, you do need narrative story, but it's a little bit different. So I do work with many, many clients who incorporate memoir aspects into their books, but It is not a memoir book. You can think of them as hybrid memoirs because they are still personal development books in some way. They're still teaching business, leadership, finance, wellness, whatever they're teaching. And that is the focus, but they are teaching it through their life story. And a big mistake people make here is that they think that it means life story. It does not mean life story. It is a very small
As
era
a
of your
kid,
life.
my sister tripped me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no,
We don't,
don't need
never,
that one.
never. No, you will lose our readers so fast doing that.
So you talk about the heroine's journey. How does that play into what we're discussing here?
Yeah, so the heroine's journey is a framework that I created or adapted for nonfiction. You may think you may have heard The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell, and it has some elements of that, but it's really kind of an argument against it because the hero's journey is an external journey and
Mm,
it is written for struggle.
yes.
And we don't want struggle. The hero probably wins, but at the end of the story, they win by martyring themselves and dying or going home
Yeah,
alone.
it tends to be a Pyrrhic victory. It's
A
like, yes,
Pyrrhic victory.
everyone died, but we won. Did
Yeah,
you
and
really?
it's not a win. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so the hero's journey is not a win for real life. And the interesting thing is that Joseph Campbell didn't originally create this for fiction or books in general, but it was created because that's what he saw in
Yeah.
our story.
If you think back on Oedipus and his whole thing, it's like, yeah, that's like the original hero's journey, and we just keep repeating
Mhm.
that.
Exactly, exactly. And we don't want to repeat that.
Yeah.
And so the heroine's journey is also seen in our real lives, but it's seen in lives that we've chosen to avoid the struggle or to, there's always going to be struggle, there's always going to be challenges and obstacles, but it's how you respond to them. And one of the ways that the hero responds is by shutting down, pushing everybody away, letting their girlfriend get killed or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there's
None of
all
this
kinds
that you
of
want.
tragic things that happen. Yes.
Yes. And the heroine's journey is different. It's an internal growth and internally becoming the heroine or the hero. And this is non-gendered, so men follow this too. Becoming the kind of person who succeeds and the kind of person at the end of the day who is able to implement what you are teaching in your book.
Mm.
And so the heroine's journey follows this journey and creates a journey with 9 milestones that the reader needs to internalize what you are teaching them and to become that kind of person.
Do tell, what are the 9 milestones?
Well, they have fancy names. So let me tell you their purpose point names because
Sure.
these milestones, this will be easier to remember. The 9 milestones create a journey that is similar to fiction. And I can tell you about why that matters later on. But so if you think about it, you need a hook, you need an inciting incident. That's the call to adventure.
Yes.
You need a door of no return is what you might hear it called. It's called a turning point, but
Yes, the
a
moment of
moment,
complete commitment when you go
a moment
from,
of complete commitment.
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
You need an obstacle that they overcome. You need the big moment of transformation and realization right in the middle. You need another obstacle. You need another door that they have to go through, or another door of no return, because there's always going to be those second half kind of wobbles.
Yeah, well, and it's like life wants to make sure you're really committed to this. It's like, yeah, you made it through the first one, but what about the second one?
Exactly. And then, of course, you've got to have a climax and you've got to bring them back down, reset their nervous system with a resolution.
Okay. I think that's an arc we can manage.
Yeah.
So
And so,
why is this especially powerful for women entrepreneurs?
because it allows us to teach what we know in a way that resonates with other women and with men as well, without showing too much weakness, because we need to show some vulnerability. But as you know, science data shows that when women are vulnerable, we are trusted less.
Yeah.
And
You don't want to appear like a hot mess.
you
Yeah.
definitely don't want to appear like a hot mess. And so the vulnerability that you show needs to be very specific. And it allows you to do that. And it allows you to bring your reader on a journey through the book where they are not feeling their nervous system amp up. Like if you were
Yeah.
teaching, if you were telling them about all the awful things that happened while you were starting your career or your business or whatever, and then suddenly like, hey, you can do this too. No, that doesn't work. So you're
No,
allowing them
no,
to,
why would I want to do this?
no, nobody
Yeah,
wants that. And even if that is their current reality of, they are currently in struggle and that's why you picked up their book, because everybody's in some sort of struggle. You
yeah,
don't want to feed that struggle. You acknowledge it in a way that allows them to grow instead.
yeah, exactly. That gives them what I want to say, hope and proactive
Right.
ability to move out of the struggle instead of just,
Right.
yeah,
And
piling
part
more of
of
it on.
Exactly. And part of the journey is, as you're doing these 9 milestones, they're not just story that you're putting in your book, but they are story at specific points that allows the things that you're teaching right then to land for the reader. And then because they've heard this brief narrative moment, it's clicks for them. And then you give them a quick win. And so they are actually growing and actually becoming the type of person who does this throughout the book.
Yes, I
Yeah.
like that. It's good to have those moments of action engaged in the whole narrative because, yeah, I've read a lot of books in my life. And the ones I love the best are the ones that don't just tell me what to do, but tell me how, in some ways, to do, that give me directions to go do. I like that.
Hmm. Me too.
Hmm.
Me too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are 3 ways that a book usually impacts a business when it's well written and well produced and well promoted?
Oh, okay. There's so many ways. I actually have part of the work I do with publishing and helping my clients write and publish. They choose one of 5 strategy stacks, is what I call them.
Oh,
And
nice.
so you can think of these as like the path that you choose that you want your book to bring additional opportunities and revenue to your business. And so the stacks are the high ticket client stack, the sought after speaker stack, the thought leader stack, digital product stack, and strategic partnerships stack. There's a 6th bonus stack, and the 6th bonus stack is premium book sales. And the thing
Oh,
is that most people start with thinking, I'm going to make money from my book from book sales.
yeah.
But that's leaving so much money on the table. We don't want to do that. That's something you think about after you've built in the other profit pathways into your book. And so, for example, most people that I work with choose either the high ticket client stack, the sought after speaker stack, or the digital product stack. And that means they want their book to either bring them more high ticket clients or easier leads,
Right.
more course sales, or more speaking gigs.
Yeah, I like that. Those are all real concrete ways to open up the faucet into your business. I like
Right.
that.
And you can build that right into the book so that you're creating these subtle little moments that trigger for the right reader that, oh, the kind of support I need next is one-on-one with this person, or the kind of support I need next is they're super easy to follow DIY course.
Yeah. So, quick question for you, because we are dealing with self-starters, and so I suggest there might be a few of us out there who have a book that we've already done that didn't do what we wanted it to, or who have started a book and are now going, "Oh, wait, is it too late to like work some of this stuff in here?" What do you have to tell us?
It's never too late. That's what I love about a book is it can always be repackaged. So if the interior of the book, the manuscript itself is good to go, and if it's written to guide people on the journey and to sell where you need it to sell, and it has the right trust building elements built in, then you can just repackage it, put more wrapping paper on it, and you can relaunch it as a second edition. You do need to make a couple changes to call it a second edition. And that gives you a whole new opportunity. It's basically a brand new product. You could even give it a new title and release it as a brand new product. You don't have to do a second edition either. So if you think that the outside of the book or the marketing that you did around it
It's
or
the
the
problem.
keywords and
Yeah.
the metadata or anything on the outside was the problem, super easy. Just repackage it and relaunch it. If you've already started writing a book and you're thinking, I don't know if I've got all of this built in right, or I have been just telling my readers step by step what to do, that can be fixed in revisions. So there's checklists
Yeah,
that they
so
could
it's
follow.
not
Yeah.
all wasted effort.
No, never.
Yeah, so if you've got a book out there, how do you tell if it was the marketing, the exterior wrapping around the book that was the problem, or if it was something inside the book or some combination of
Yeah,
factors.
if it's the marketing or the outside of the book, then it's just not going to have too many sales or not the sales that you were expecting. And you also need to think about like how many people have you gotten in front of? Have you gotten in front of enough people to get sales to make that decision? Because if you only have an email list of 500 people and you sent one email about it, then you don't have enough data.
Yeah, exactly. Because probably 50 of them opened it if you're doing good.
If you're doing good, yeah,
Yeah,
if you're doing good, 50 opened it, and then 1%, 2%, 3% of those bought it. You don't have enough data there.
which would explain why it was 3 sales and your mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I have to tell you that when I published my first book, my mom didn't even buy it. So you may not even have
Oh
that.
no, Mom, come on.
She thought she could get it for free.
So we're up on our second break already. What do you recommend as homework for our dear listeners over this break?
Yeah, so I would recommend thinking about what you want your book to do for your business. So what strategy stack would you pick? And you want to have that in mind before you start writing or before you do your revisions at least.
Very nice. Okay, so spend a little time over the break thinking about the strategy stack. Remind us of what they are.
Yeah, so there's high ticket clients, sought after speaker, thought leadership, digital products, and strategic partnerships. And you can think of that as like consulting with universities, doing workshops, classes, having your book as a textbook, things like that.
Beautiful. And hang with us. We'll be right back from the break.
Oh, checked it loud, but we're here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I'm back with the amazing and wonderful Holly Ostrout. And before the break, we asked you to go back and spend some time with the strategy stacks. Which one do you think would make the most sense for your business? And if somebody had a challenge with that, would you have a tool that could help them with that?
I do actually. I have a quiz, and you can take it's 2 minutes, and they can not only learn their best fit strategy stack for their business and their business goals, but once they take it, they'll get a 3 day challenge from me. If they complete the 3 day challenge, they will have written their introduction chapter. But not only that,
Nice.
each of the 3 days of challenges gives you an opportunity for free book coaching feedback from me if you send me your challenge homework.
Ooh, that's a really good deal right there. I
Yeah.
like that.
So
Okay,
you can come
cool.
out of it with a chapter written.
So we will have all of that in the show notes below. You can check for that down there. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts of making this thing happen. I mean, we're already running businesses and juggling all the things and putting out all the fires, and we got a stack of hats that reaches the ceiling. So how do we realistically make time to write a book without like giving up our last 4.5 hours of sleep?
Okay, do not do that because we need our sleep for our health. And I believe that we should not be running ourselves into the ground, especially as women and all of us taking on a lot of extra labor, sometimes a lot of extra emotional labor too. Do not do that with your book. And your book should not cause that kind of stress for anybody. What I ask my clients to do is to give it about 30 minutes a day.
Okay.
And not only do I not want you to wake up 30 minutes early to do this, I want you to do this in the time that you already have. So do it while you're walking your dog. Do it while you're waiting in the pickup line at your kid's school. Just take your phone and talk it out, and then just
Okay.
have just what is the word? Transcribe it, and
Yeah,
then you
Otter
can edit it
AI
later.
or somebody. Yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly. You
mean,
don't even have to transcribe it yourself.
no, of course not. And I mean, plenty of AI tools will transcribe it for you, and you will need to edit it, but it goes so much faster. So, for example, you can talk out an entire chapter in 15 to 30 minutes. That's a whole chapter if you're sitting there focused, and I can tell you how to get focused on it. But if you try to write that same chapter, it could be 3,000 words or so. Most people sitting down at their keyboards or laptops or so on and trying to write it, it'll
You,
take them 3 or 4 days.
yeah, you have to face that freaking blank screen, first of all, which is
Yeah.
like my nemesis at the blank screen. So I like your approach of just talk about it because I'm a talker
Mhm.
and get that transcribed. Now I'm not starting with a blank screen. The words are
Exactly.
already there. I can just rearrange and polish and yeah.
Yeah. And so for rearranging, we talked about the heroine's journey. There is a framework here. And I give my clients a template that they can follow. And it basically creates paint by number. Just imagine a paint by number Bob Ross that you picked up at the Michaels, and you're just, the spot says paint green here, you put green right there. And it's not going to make your book feel like a template, but as you're on your dog walk or as you're waiting in the school pickup line, you're looking at your book map, is what I call it, and you're saying, okay, in this chapter, I need to cover this point, this point, and this point. I'm going to open it with this story, and I'm going to close it with this action step. And so if you're just glancing at this as chat, then you get all of it out in that 15 to 30 minutes and then transcribe it later. So my clients are able to write a book in 6 weeks sometimes. I had one client, now this is not typical. I had one client actually write her whole first draft in 3 days. I don't recommend doing that. I
I
recommend
was
that you
gonna say
sleep.
she didn't do anything else.
No, no, I recommend that you sleep. But 6 to 8 weeks is very common and very doable. 12 weeks also very common, very doable. So
Nice. That seems manageable, and it seems like a project that will have impact on a time frame that an entrepreneur will appreciate, as
yeah.
opposed to this, yeah, well, you'll start now and it'll get published in 2.5 or 3 years.
Mm. And
Speaking of
that's yeah.
published, speaking
Yeah.
of published, once we've written this thing, what does it take to get it out in the marketplace? What should we think about when we're choosing an avenue to go down, self-published or partially self-published or
Yeah.
traditionally?
Yeah, so you've kind of got three options here. You've got traditional publishing, you've got self-publishing, or also called indie publishing. And I like that better because it sounds nicer.
It
And
does.
I think it's more accurate. And then there's hybrid publishing. And so traditional publishing, you've gone to Simon and Schuster, you've gone to Penguin Random House, you've gone to whomever, and they've given you a book deal. To get that, you have to first submit a book proposal. And that's a 20, 30, 40-page document
Yeah.
basically talking about the book versus giving them the manuscript of the book right away. You need an agent for that. So first you're querying agents with that document. The agent, once you get one, if you get one, it's
Yeah,
not a
well,
guarantee.
and they want a chunk of whatever happens. So
About
yeah,
usually
yeah,
15% of your deal. Let's say you do get one. So let's
yeah.
look at the best possible avenue for each one. So you write your book proposal, you submit it, you query, it's called querying, you query an agent. The agent loves it, says, I want to represent your book. I'm going to try to sell it. So they go over to Penguin Random House or whomever, and they try to sell your book to one of the acquisitions editors there. And maybe they have a relationship with them. And the editor says, I like this. I'll take it back to my team. Let's see if we can bid on it. They'll give you an offer, and you can accept that offer or reject that offer. Once you get that offer, the agent is going to take 15%. So most offers, most people think that they're going to get a lot of money for a book deal.
Yeah.
But the data, the most recent data that we have is from like 2022 or 2023. I can't recall precisely offhand, but the average advance for a nonfiction book is between $5,000 and $20,000.
Okay, so my husband did all right with 11.
Good.
It
Great.
was a few years back, but
Yeah. As you can see, it's not a salary. It's
yeah,
not, if you put 6 months of your life into writing this book and
you
getting
could
it
have
ready for,
worked at McDonald's and done just as
you would
well.
have made, yeah, you would have
Yeah.
made more at McDonald's. So it's, as you can see, it's not a salary. And then most of these publishing deals are not coming with really any marketing. They'll put you probably in the new releases catalog, and they might put you on their website. And you're not going to get a table at the front of Barnes and Noble. You're not going to get a book tour. Certainly not, they're certainly not going to send you traveling anywhere for a book tour. So the $11,000 that you get, that's your marketing budget.
Yeah.
And so then after that, you have to then, well, what about royalties? So to get royalties, you have to then
Yeah,
do
we
what's
never saw
called,
any of those.
well, that's because you have to earn out your advance. So
Yeah.
that means that for an $11,000 book deal, you have to sell, and it's not even $11,000. You would have had to sell probably $20,000 worth of books because it's based off after the printing costs and after the publication costs and everything. So you have to sell that back so they make that money back. Once they've made that money back, then they'll start paying you royalties, which typically are around 8 to 15%. Of those 8 to 15%, you're still giving 15% to your agent. So
Yeah, okay.
it's not a lot,
Yeah,
but
it becomes more like 6 to 12. Yeah.
yes, but that doesn't mean that traditional publishing is bad. I don't think that it's bad. I just don't think that it's for everybody. And for some people, it is the only option. So if you are in an academic field, or you are a certain kind of speaker who's speaking in maybe academic, medical sort of areas, you
Yeah.
may want to go traditional publishing because you may not be able to, for example, book a speaking gig without a traditional publisher's name on the back of your book. And if you're an academic, you almost certainly want to go with an academic
Traditional.
publisher, but they also work a little differently than the big publishers in New York City anyway.
They do. That's what our experience has been with, is the academic publishing side of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he did really good if it was an academic deal.
So, all right, we figured out how we have the time to kind of do this. And we talked about the traditional route. What does the hybrid and the self-publishing look like if you go down those roads?
Yeah. So if we look at self for indie publishing next, that's when you're saying, I'm going to take it all on myself. So you are handling the things that the traditional publisher might typically handle. And that's going to include things like the editing, the copy editing, the interior formatting, the book cover design, the marketing blurbs, the metadata that the book sits with, and any distribution.
Okay.
And that can feel really scary.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of it is like, okay, yeah, I can probably format and figure out some of this, but things like the cover, I mean, a lot of us aren't designers, you know, and just distribution, wait. I think you would need a map or something.
No, it's not quite that complicated.
Okay.
But yeah, it can feel like that. And you're not the only person who thinks that. So everybody hears these words and they think, oh, this is really scary. I don't want to have to do this myself. I don't want to mess it up. But it's all very doable. And you could watch a YouTube video to figure out how to format your book. Although there are very good professional formatters that you can hire to format your book for not a lot of money. Maybe.
Well, yeah, and you do have to ask yourself, what is it costing me to sit here and mess around with bold versus italic and margins and all this kind of stuff when you could pay somebody
right
to take on that headache, and you could go find another client, right?
Exactly. And I do recommend that based on your skills and what you feel comfortable with, you should be outsourcing some of this. You should definitely be outsourcing your cover, even if you're a graphic designer, because graphic designers are not book designers. And books are different than graphic design. But that doesn't mean that you're spending $5,000 on a book cover. You can get a really nice cover for $500 or less.
Excellent.
And you can also get a very bespoke cover for $3,000, but you know.
Yeah, but I mean, those are manageable numbers. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and all told, if you wanted to self-publish your book, a lot of people wonder how much is it going to cost. You could, at doing everything yourself, except for, I would definitely say you want to get somebody to look at it, your copy editor.
Yep.
You could do it for about $1,500. I think that most people, most people are going to spend more like $5,000. You could spend upwards of that. Let's talk about hybrid publishing a little bit. So that's kind of a middle ground between traditional and self-publishing, where you're retaining all control and ownership of the book, which is one other key thing. Is when you sell your book to a traditional publisher, you are giving them the IP and you're giving them total creative control. So you do not really own the book anymore. Mm-hmm. But with a hybrid publisher, you can get a lot of the benefits of a traditional publisher, like having somebody do your cover, your marketing, your formatting, your copy editing for a price. But you're retaining all creative control and ownership of it, like you would with self-publishing. And that can cost anywhere from like $10,000 to $30,000. So it really depends on what you want to do and what you want to outsource. But the goal is that your book should be bringing all this money back, whether you're choosing self-publishing or hybrid publishing or traditional publishing, it should be bringing that money back to you within the first year
Yeah,
and
exactly.
continuing to.
Let's talk about time frames related to each of these. I know I've played with traditional publishing and it takes more than a minute.
Yeah.
So how do they compare?
Traditional publishing is typically from the time you sell your book to a publisher via your agent to the time it comes out on available to buy is 18 to 24 months typically. Hybrid publishing, you could look at 6 to 12 months, and self-publishing is the fastest, and that's going to depend entirely on you. I recommend that you do not do it any faster than 6 months because you need to slow down and make sure you're doing it right because your
Yeah.
reputation is on the line.
Yeah, yeah. You want it right. And it does take some time to prepare for a launch, right? It's
Yes.
not, if you want to launch next week, you're not going to have much of a launch, I'm afraid.
I would not recommend anybody
Yeah.
launch next week.
Exactly. It's just you need some runway. You need to build some anticipation. So that's beautiful. So if someone wanted to engage with you to find out how you might be able to assist them with their process, how could they get a hold of you?
Well, I recommend they take the quiz to find their strategy stack first. And you can always reply to any email to me. I read all my emails because I like to retain control of my clients' experiences. So I don't pass that off to anybody. So you can always do that. My website is www.hollyostraut.com. And my last name is Ostrout. It's difficult to spell. I could
Yes.
also pick.
We'll have it in the show notes.
Yeah.
So that saves any spelling questions. So
Yeah.
beautiful.
course.
Thank you for joining us here today, Holly. It's been fun and informative.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much, Zofia.
And thank you for joining us today, dear listener. I know you could invest your time in a large number of different ways, and we aim to make this hour as productive as we possibly can for you. And I sincerely hope we've achieved that goal today. Drop me a comment or shoot me an email to Zofia, Zofia, at steminstilettos.com. I read all of them. I know they say you're not supposed to read your comments, but I do. And just let me know, did you like it? Did you hate it? What do you want to see us talk about? Is there someone you want to see me talking to? And until next week, go out, be bold, be beautiful, and be authentically you.